they're actually required, as far as I can tell. I'm scrolling up to see if I missed any questions here. Worley says mesh import use SLM is disabled by default. Okay, that's good to know. I think we at least want to make that much of a change. What I'm doing right now is a little even more ambitious than that, which is that it's basically just getting rid of the things completely. But if if there's people who find them useful for something, we could just change the default and not actually, obliterate them entirely.
The default was that they're disabled.
Not in the
on Firefox.
viewer. It's been
Or Firestorm, sorry.
I don't think.
They're not disabled in the Bento viewer. Yeah, definitely need to disable them because they do cause nothing but confusion. If you upload something and then it doesn't upload correctly or has missing a bone or something, and then you try to you fix it, and then you create your new DAE and you just write over the old one, the DAE, and you try to upload it again, and then the uploader tries to upload the SLM file instead, and you're like going, I fixed it. And, yeah, that drives you crazy if that is not disabled.
Yeah, well, I think there may be something that never worked quite right with the logic or something, because it's supposed to ignore the SLM file if the DAE has been updated more recently than the SLM. It's supposed to look at the date stamps, but I'm not sure that actually gets handled correctly. Okay, well, I'll at least change the mesh import use SLM. I may make the change a little less drastic than the current form, but in any case, you should be seeing that disabled by default in the next project viewer. Full perm mesh sellers rely on the SLM file. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, well, if they're generally a problem, but there are some people who do find them useful, then I guess we'll just change the debug setting but leave the option to use them if somebody really wants to go in and change that, at least for now. Let's see, Troy, I see you're with us now. Anything you want to talk about this week?
I do not actually, nothing specific. Just kind of hanging in the wind. I do have to leave at 1:30. I've got another meeting that I've got to attend.
Okay, well, we may have a light week. I don't have anything else on the agenda. The other thing I've been looking at is some issues with vertices getting corrupted in the meshes sometimes. If you right-click on a mesh or try to edit a mesh object, or also sometimes you go to high altitudes, the matrix math seems to get squirrely, and you can wind up with your avatar, or at least your mesh avatar, or at least whatever local copy of the mesh is getting made in that context, getting distorted. So we're trying to see what's going on with that, and may try to fix it. I think if it turns out to be hairy to fix, it's probably not a must fix. We would probably consider shipping without it, especially since some of the issues really only manifest in when you're using software skinning, which is and at high altitude, so it's a little corner casey. Yeah, that does seem to be a floating point error, and I don't know why. My suspicion right now is that it has to do with places where we're using SSE in a kind of an optimized way, and it may not have the same precision as it would if we did a more brute force approach. So I'm going to poke at it a bit more and see what I can find out. The proposal not to have the mesh influenced by sliders. There have been a couple of different proposals there. I think the one that we had the most discussion about was being able to lock a scale. If you can lock both the scale and the position, then you can basically make any joint not influenced by sliders. And currently we have the scale locking proposal as a possible post-Bento project. It's I think it's not a huge project, and I think it's something that would be useful, but currently it's not actually in scope for the Bento viewer release itself. I think we'll probably go to RC for Bento before we get a chance to look into that. So exactly when and if we're gonna try to do that is still TBD. Okay, thanks, Jerry, and we'll do. All right. Anything else this week? Oh, one other thing that's happened recently. Kathy has updated the Maya files, the Maya sample files, to be based on the latest skeleton and slider combo, and those are currently linked to in the Bento testing page. So thanks for passing those along, and hopefully that will help folks who are in the Maya boat these days. Kathy, did you want to say anything about those?
Oh, sure. Okay, there's a male and a female, and the male avatar is just the female skeleton, the default skeleton in the default position, which is the male mesh, the male morphs applied. So it's the same exact skeleton, just different morphs. I did use Matrice has been kind enough to allow me to take the Bento Angel weights and apply them to the mesh, so that the face is fully rigged to all the bones, and the fingers are all fully rigged to the hands. There's no tail, there's no wings, but like I said, it's a good starting point. I will be probably making some FBX files that I'll give Veer in the next day or so, maybe later today, and we can get those up on the wiki page. For those who are not using Maya but need FBX, like say 3D Max users out there who need the FBX in order to get the skeleton into 3D Max, I'll be doing those hopefully this afternoon, and get them over to Veer by today or tomorrow at the latest. So, but yeah, that's about it.
Per the discussion above about the collision volume reading, that's the same thing I was talking about with the animation. It was the issue was that animations involving collision volumes had stopped working, and we have a fix in the pipeline for that. So I think that'll take care of the problem next time around. Next viewer. No, something else? Hey Tigger, we haven't had a big rethink on schedule at this point. It's always harder to talk about release than talk about release candidate, because you've got different possible release candidates vying to be the release viewer. In terms of release candidate, we don't have a ton of active bugs right now, but on the other hand, I know that a lot of people have been kind of sidelined by these joint position issues. So once we kind of have to wait until there's a fix for that, and then once there is a fix, we need to make sure that people have actually had some time to exercise the system with that fix in place to make sure that there's not other things we're missing. So I guess that's my biggest concern on the timing. But you know, hopefully, if there's a fix out for that soon, then it shouldn't affect our RC timing too much. So this is the forum thread thing where the like the waist is all pinched in and the legs are distorted and all that stuff. Huh? Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, since I don't have a Jira for it. I can't speak to it in much detail. My suspicion is it could be the same issue if there's also collision volume rigging in that model, or there could be something else screwy going on with the model. You know, if you want to file a Jira and then attach the model you're using to that, or send it to me, then we can take a look at it and see whether that's affected by the collision thing that we've changed recently. Yeah, it's possible that it's the same thing, but we can certainly check if we have the data and you know the steps needed to repro the problem. Yeah, and I know that the joint offsets have been a separate problem, and I'm hopeful that that'll be getting sorted out fairly soon. We'll certainly keep you posted if anything. You know, when new versions are available, and I know that the Avastar folks will as well. We had a problem. What's the problem to implement Bento? You know, there's the Avastar issues which are making it hard for people to do testing. As far as we can tell, those aren't problems with the Bento viewer, but you know, if most of the people who are trying to do testing are having problems, then it still affects our ability to find out whether the Bento viewer is working correctly or not. You know, that's our biggest issue right now. There's a few other bugs we're actually looking at. I mentioned there was the problem with you know, some kind of floating point precision error where the meshes can get distorted at various times, and a couple of other things. But I think at this point, you know, the biggest problem is that we're, you know, the content creators are kind of stuck, and so we can't really be sure that we found all of the other bugs yet. So, well, we're hoping to you know, see you guys get unstuck soon, and then get a better sense of where we are with release readiness. Yeah, most of the slider issues I think are more related to how Avastar is exporting the joint positions. Although we did have one slider fix that will be showing up in the next build. That was the fix for the issues with eye scaling. There were some cases where the mesh eyes were showing up at the wrong size, and we did make a small change to the sliders for that. Oh, that sounds great. It'd be nice to have a 3D Studio Max option for people as well. Yeah, I'm sure that's a big project. It's if you have to re-implement the whole slider system, then that in itself is quite complicated. If you want to drop me a line about any questions, I might be able to be some help in explaining the way that our system works. But even if the individual pieces are clear, there's still a lot of them, and it's a big project.
Yeah, Elizabeth, I'm sure Matrice and I would be more than happy if you get stuck anywhere to give you advice as to, and to help you figure out, how the sliders work and how they might work in 3D Max for you. Matrice took one particular approach to how the sliders work, and I took a different one. So you can kind of get advice from both of us and figure out which is the better way for you to go.
Yeah, the scale transform, it will affect the positions of the child joints effectively. I mean, you're not really changing the positions, but you're scaling them out, which also puts them in a different place. But we may not be doing exactly the same thing in terms of the way we're treating the whole hierarchy there. And sliders can affect scale and translation. And then you got animations. I'll tell you what. I'll drop you a line later, and we'll try to find a way to get everybody synced up so we can kind of have discussions about this stuff offline. I'm certainly glad to pass along whatever we've learned in the process of working on this rather complicated system.
Yeah, Elizabeth, you definitely want to try to see if in Maya, there's a thing called, let me look at it real quick. It's called segment scale compensate. You might want to see if there's something similar in 3D Max. If there's a setting. I'm sure there should be somewhere.
All right. So, any other questions this week? We can wrap it up if we're otherwise done. All right. Well, why don't we wrap it up for this week? Get a little time back for whatever other pursuits. Yep. He's a popular guy right now. Yeah, so we'll keep you posted on the Avastar side. I know they will too, and otherwise we'll catch up with you next week.
Thanks, Bear. Alright, thanks everybody. Well. Thanks, Ryder. Thanks, everybody.